Here with Skylar Reidel, franchise attorney. I've gotten to know quite a bit over the years. Today, we're going to just talk around the basics of any potential risks that are outlined in the FDD, like the item threes and the item 17s. What are you looking for there from a legal perspective, or, what's kind of making your little red flags go up a little bit?
There's a lot, and I'll just share a few that I think maybe are under considered potentially. One of those would be when I'm looking at the type of the system. So item one, and really just digging into what the system is. This will be things like item 8, item 11, how the system is structured, what is in place. I
Okay.
try to get a gauge of whether this system is sales heavy. And this is something that a lot of people forget about and don't
Okay.
consider, because franchisors say we have a lot of assistants, we bring you leads and this and that, but you as a franchisee, it's your responsibility to close the leads and to sell. And if you're coming from a corporate position where maybe I've had engineers who come, and do reviews and think that a sales franchise is for them, I just caution them, right? Put on the brakes, think about it a little heavier, because if you're not comfortable with sales and you're not familiar with closing deals, and you may be willing to learn, which is great, but if you're not comfortable even learning and that's not something you want to do, sales oriented franchise systems could be a disaster for you. And that's something that I think a lot of people forget. It's just not something that comes to mind instantly when you're reading an FDD. But that's one I look for that I think is under considered.
Okay.
I do look at the turnover rates too. This
Okay.
is one that I think is easy to find. It's item 20, table I think 3, if I recall correctly, the list of franchisees,
Okay.
and you look at the specific turnover rates, right? Terminations, ceasing operations, taking over by the franchisor, things like that, or transfers even. If
Okay.
there's a high proportion of turnover compared to units in the system, potentially a red flag, right? We want to know a little bit more about why is there turnover. Is it industry based? Is it something that's affecting all the systems, or is it bad franchisees? Maybe, there's a lot of different reasons.
Right.
It's something you want to look into and ask questions about. Um, those are two big ones I think that are under considered.
Okay.
A third I would say would be understanding the minimums that you're responsible for. Minimum performance requirements, essentially a sales quota, right? Be aware of that. Maybe it's not a big deal. Maybe you're confident in it, but you got to be aware of it, right? If you don't hit
Right.
those numbers, you're going to have to find a way to hit them, right? to
You're
get to
you're
get those
paying
numbers
either
in
way.
place.
Right.
Exactly. Minimum royalties as well. Same thing. If you have a slow month, you're paying out of pocket. You just got to know that and
Yeah.
have a plan for it. So just briefly, I mean, those are some major ones that I look for that I think are not so common that people talk about.
Okay. Got it. Got it. Let's talk. I want to dig in a little bit deeper on that
Sure,
minimum
sure.
royalty. I mean, from franchisor perspective, we can see why they have it. I kind of lean in to say, if you buy a territory and you're not working the territory, the franchisor is not making a royalty, you're leaving money on the
Yep.
table.
Sure,
That
sure.
minimum royalty probably isn't there as any sort of revenue source for the franchisor.
Correct.
They are using it almost as a carrot and stick to
Yeah,
say, you got
definitely.
to hit this, because if you're hitting this, at least the business is doing something and you're moving forward with the business.
Yep. Yep.
So when you talk about minimum royalty, is that how you're talking with candidates to say, what
Uh,
you're going to
To some
translate
extent,
to?
I
Okay.
explain that position that the franchisor has. The concern from a franchisee side, what we look for is it reasonable based on potential revenues, right? And that's,
Okay.
again,
Yes.
that's not an answer I will have. And the
Right.
other side is the bigger question, usually a seasonality. Are
Right.
there periods where, like a childcare franchise, right? Are they going to be slow in the summer when people go on vacation and they're not taking their kids to daycare, right, or whatever the
Okay.
facility? And
Interesting.
how do we handle minimum royalties during those seasonal periods where it's slow? Um, Things like that. And it may not be a big deal, right? If the minimums are quite reasonable, it's just, hey, have enough money in the bank if you don't hit those numbers, right?
Right.
But sometimes those drops can be significant,
Okay.
and maybe in certain industries, they could be maybe prolonged sometimes. We just are trying to give our clients insights into potential issues they're going to face, right?
Yep.
And these are the kinds of lenses that we want to look through to make sure that although those rules are there and they may not change, the minimum royalties or fees, how do we address concerns and hurdles in the future when we run into them, right? Are we going to be able to jump them? Are we going to be able to manage them the right way and not put the entire business into jeopardy? Most of the time we can, right? We can mitigate that risk. We can find ways to adjust for it as long as we have that knowledge, as long as we understand it, we know what's there, what our expectations are of what we have to do, and having a plan to fit it. So again, our big role is educating there, making sure they know it. Yeah, we do explain the franchisor's perspective, definitely.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much. That's really helpful. Thank you. Thank you for watching. If you're ready to take the next step, Integrity Franchise Group is here to help. Click the link below or reach out to us today to schedule an appointment. Let's work together to solve that franchise puzzle and turn your business dreams into reality. We cannot wait to connect with you.